World Pneumonia Day is annually held on November 12th to raise awareness of the illness, promote prevention and treatment, and generate action to fight the illness. Pneumonia is caused by a number of infectious agents, including viruses, bacteria, and fungi, including streptococcus pneumoniae, the most common cause of bacterial pneumonia in children. According to the World Health Organization, pneumonia is the single largest infectious cause of death in children worldwide. An estimated 922,000 children died of pneumonia in 2015. The disease accounts for 15% of all deaths of children under 5 years old, and it is most prevalent in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. The fight against pneumonia-related death in children relies on prevention, protection, and when infections do occur, on better treatment. Joining us live via Skype from Raleigh, North Carolina, to tell us more about the need for vaccine to prevent pneumonia is Ilina Ewen, writer and champion for the UN Foundation Shot at Life campaign. Ms. Ewen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, when we look at these numbers, it's really disconcerting to see how many children die, especially when we know that the disease can be preventable and treatable.
Absolutely. In fact, worldwide, about every 20 seconds, a child dies from a vaccine-preventable disease. And it's really astounding to consider that more children die from pneumonia than malaria, measles, and AIDS combined.
This is really an issue. Now, tell us about the issue in the Sub-Saharan Africa, especially given that you just returned from Uganda. What can you tell us about your experience on the ground?
Yes, I was in Uganda and in India recently, and I can tell you the lengths that mothers go through to carry their children to get vaccines that we in the U.S. take for granted. And worldwide, about half the children in the developing countries don't have access to these pneumonia vaccines because they're not necessarily part of their government protocol and what's offered in their suite of vaccines. So I can tell you that there are leaders and mothers and doctors on the ground in these countries who are desperately trying to get these life-saving vaccines to their children.
So when we talk about access to vaccines, can you elaborate a little more on some of the roadblocks?
Absolutely. There are definitely issues in infrastructure just dealing with some of these governments. And then there are issues of having the standard healthcare protocol to ensure that there are trained people on the ground in country to deliver the vaccines. There are obstacles for access for parents to get their children to these clinics. It isn't like in the US where we can just hop in our car and drive a few miles down the road to get our children their flu shots. Parents go through great lengths and walk sometimes 5 to 10 kilometers carrying their children just to access these vaccines.
So what are some of the feedback that you received from mothers in Uganda and India in terms of why it is so difficult for them to see their children being confronted with this disease?
Well, you know, it's funny that I say the sisterhood of motherhood is universal, and regardless where we live, we all love our children with the same depth. And to see the heartache in these mothers who worry about their children if they're even going to live to age 5 really tears at your hearts. And I think that as a mother myself, I see so much of myself in these moms, and I see my own sons in the faces of their children. And I think that once you start to look at these people as fellow mothers and fellow human beings and not just statistics, it makes the statistics even more grave, and it makes me realize these are preventable diseases that we can help have access to. We can help these families have access to. The U.S. can continue to sustain our foreign funding to maintain the support of the global vaccine program. And this being World Pneumonia Day is a great time for us to contact our representatives to ask for that continued support.
And tell us about the Shot at Life campaign, which you are involved in.
Shot at Life is a campaign through the United Nations Foundation, and our goal is to provide life-saving vaccinations to children in the developing world. And they're for illnesses like pneumonia that are things that we take for granted in the U.S. because we have different access to health care. We're not faced with malnutrition, and we're not faced with some of the other obstacles that families in the developing world are facing. So our goal is to do what we can to work with governments and medical professionals and regular people
Okay.
like myself to help advocate to
Okay.
provide global vaccines.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And that was Ilina Ewen. She is a champion for the UN Foundation Shot at Life campaign. That's our Africa Health Report for today. Vincent?
Well, Linord, thanks a lot. And I'll be sure to watch Moudou's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54.